Darius Vane, Episode 10. The Hunter's Rule. 5 days remained. The library had stopped whispering. Now, it listened. Darius walked alone through the endless aisles. For the first time in centuries, he wasn't searching for knowledge. He was hunting. The old keeper watched him leave. "You can't chase the editor." Without turning around, Darius answered, "I'm not. I'm chasing the mistake that let him inside." Hours later, Darius reached the oldest section of the library. No keeper had entered this wing for over 1,000 years. Dust covered every shelf, chains wrapped around every door. In the center of the room sat a single wooden table. Only one book rested on it. It had no title, no author, no pages, just a leather cover with a handprint burned into it. Darius placed his own hand on the cover. "Nothing," he frowned. "I'm the keeper." The room remained silent. Then, a voice behind him replied, "No." Darius spun around. The borrower stood in the doorway. "You are a keeper." "There have been hundreds." He slowly walked toward the table. "But only one was ever chosen." Darius's jaw tightened. "You came to fight." The borrower laughed. "If I wanted you dead, I'd simply wait." He looked at the empty book. "The editor isn't attacking the library. He's looking for this." Darius glanced down. A blank book. The borrower's expression darkened. "It isn't blank. It hasn't been written yet." Silence. Then realization hit. "No." The borrower nodded. "It's your story." The room suddenly shook. Every chain on the walls snapped at once. A freezing wind swept through the chamber. The empty book slowly opened. Ink appeared on the first page. Not words. A drawing. It showed Darius, standing over the body of the old keeper. His hands were covered in black ink. The library burned behind him. Darius staggered backward. "That's not real." The borrower didn't answer. Another page turned. Another drawing. The little girl, the last piece of the author, was fading into nothing. Another page. The gentleman in white knelt before someone sitting on a throne, made of books. But the figure on the throne had Darius's face. No. Another page turned by itself. The final illustration. The reader, the editor, the author, all three, standing together, facing one person, Darius. Then beneath the drawing, 6 words slowly wrote themselves in ink. "The keeper makes the choice." The pages slammed shut. The room fell silent. The borrower finally spoke. "Now you understand. The future isn't ending. It's waiting for you to decide." Before Darius could respond, a bell rang. Once, twice, 3 times. The little girl burst into the room, out of breath. "Darius," her voice cracked. "It's happening early. The reader isn't waiting 7 days anymore." The entire library lurched violently. Far above them, the ceiling split open. For the first time, moonlight entered the library. That had never happened before, because the library had never existed beneath the sky. Darius slowly looked up through the crack. Stars, clouds, the moon. Reality itself was bleeding into the impossible. The little girl whispered the words no keeper had ever wanted to hear. "The walls between the story and the world are gone." Outside, across the city, people began seeing black doors in places they had never existed before. Some opened them, some stepped inside, and every one of them unknowingly walked into the library. The story was no longer contained. It had escaped. To be continued.